Shalom, everyone. Welcome to Hebrew Awakening. We're going to discuss the viper, specifically the blessing that was given to Dan from his father Yaakov. So I titled this The Month of the Viper because, according to our Hebrew calendar, we are in the month of Tevet, and the tribe assigned to this month is the tribe of Dan. So let's take a look at the prophetic blessing that was given to Dan. All right, before we move on, a quick disclaimer for anybody new. If you are Christian, Muslim, or you just curious about what we're talking about, this channel, we come from a Hebraic perspective, meaning I use the Hebraic language, culture, traditions, history to help us to understand the scriptures. All right. So we believe, right, in the Hebraic calendar. We also know that we live here in America. I am living in North America, and we also have a Gregorian calendar. However, I base my lifestyle off of the Hebraic calendar. So we are dual citizens, right, wherever we live, and we have to know how to navigate both systems. All right, so let's dig in. Genesis 49:16 through 18. Read along with me. Dan will provide justice for his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan will be a serpent by the roadside, a viper along the path that bites the horse's heels so that its rider stumbles backwards. I look for your deliverance, O Yahweh. All right, so we need to break down what is the meaning of this, right? And I always ask questions and look for key terms, okay? I look for key terms and I want to know what is a viper? Why would you equate Dan doing justice to a viper? And, if we are students of the word, we remember Yeshua when he said, be harmless as doves, right? And as wise as a serpent. So, with that being said, let's do a little digging on the word viper. We're coming from a Hebraic standpoint, all right? We're not coming from an American Western standpoint. So, remember that. All right, this is a masculine noun in the Hebrew, meaning that it plants a seed. It has masculine attributes. All right. Ephe, Ephe. The word origin, Epha, means hissing, hissing. So this is a breathing thing, right? We know it's sound, but it comes from a breath. Paha. So for those of us that study our ancient paleo Hebrew letters, we see that pay, right? And we see the hey at the end. So we see the pay means mouth, right? Paha. And we see that hey meaning revelation, to behold, a picture of a man looking up in the sky, beholding. What is he beholding? Revelation of who Yahweh is, looking up to the Shamayims or the heavens, right? So to scream, to cry, to groan, an intense, involuntary breath, a breath released through labor pains. This is what this root word of Epheh means. So we keep digging. In the Hebrew language, we have words that go with other words, so to speak. And I'm trying to keep it really simple so that I don't lose people. But we have sister words. So you see Epheh, but inside of Epheh, you see the Hebrew root word Paha, right? And so we dig for the root meaning of that word, right? And the root meaning of that word is to scream, to cry, to groan, an intense, involuntary breath. Put a pin in that. So we're talking about a viper, right? We're talking about a viper. Isaiah 42:14. Isaiah 14, for a long time I have kept silent. I have been quiet and held myself back. But now, like a woman in childbirth, I cry out, I gasp and pant. You see those words grouped together, and it is used to describe this paha, right? This groan, this cry. Remember, paha is the root word of the viper, a hissing, right? So we're looking at the characteristics of this word in scripture. Now we see Isaiah equating this involuntary breath to a woman having labor pains. So justice cannot remain silent any longer, and the purposes, the sinful purposes that were hidden, are now revealed. And the purpose of justice are now revealed. So the things that were hidden, that were restrained, are now revealed. The history of redemption is able to move forward with a force that is unstoppable. So, in this prophetic declaration, we see that Yahweh is using the woman, right, in childbirth to compare it to his justice that is about to burst forth, all right? This breath, this gasp, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So let's focus on the gasp, all right? Because there's a breath that comes before judgment, that comes before justice. This particular gasp marks the moment that patience has now transitioned to action. The pause, right? That gasp, that involuntary breath, the pause in justice does not equate to a lack of concern. This gasp, this hard breath, symbolizes that sight will be given to the blind, prisoners will be released, and light will appear to the nations. Now, if you continue to read Isaiah, because I'm looking down at my computer, if you will continue to read in Isaiah, right, you will see in verse 16, I will lead the blind by ways they have not known, along unfamiliar paths I will guide them. I will turn the darkness into light before them and make the rough places smooth. These are the things I will do. I will not forsake them. This is what justice is supposed to do. It's supposed to move redemption forward, right? You want to be redeemed, especially those of us that are walking on the righteous path of the kingdom, right? We are followers of the way. So when you hear we are followers of the way, it's referring to the ancient paths from the pictograph. For those of us that study the Hebrew, when we hear the way, you automatically picture a path laid before you, and we are walking on that path, right? Trying our best to enter into the gates of the kingdom, right? So this gasp is very, very important. And the Most High wants us to know that there is a pause before justice. And just because he is patient before he just destroys a lot of things going on, breaking down strongholds, toppling over governments, it doesn't mean he didn't care. He is carefully orchestrating, giving people a chance to repent. Right now, all of this is inside of that word viper. That's why you have to, and I'm using that word, you have to study the scriptures from a Hebraic perspective to get the whole meaning of the story or the events or Hebrew idioms that the Most High is using. Yes, you can read and just get a basic understanding and live your life, but you will not live a full life as intended on earth. You will not be able to build up the authority that you need to be able to walk along the path with authority, with power, with revelation. You will only get a surface level of understanding. What we're doing is building knowledge, banah, wisdom means to build, as in build a house. So when you're studying words, you're sitting down and you're building your knowledge so that when you're trying to understand that word inside of a prophetic word that was given or inside of a verse of scripture, you will get the best or full understanding of that word. So let's look at what is it? Isaiah 59. Let's start. Where are we going to start? We're going to start at verse 4. No one calls for justice. No one pleads a case with integrity. They rely on empty arguments. They utter lies. They conceive trouble and give birth to evil. They hatch the eggs of vipers and spin a spider's web. Whoever eats their eggs will die. And when one is broken, an adder is hatched. So we're concentrating on this viper because we're trying to understand and build knowledge to gain understanding for what Yaakov was telling Dan, right, that he would do over the course of his life, and not just Dan, but his descendants. All right. So let's see. I'm reading from my notes so I don't ramble. All right. So verse 4 declares that, of course, no one calls or pleads for justice. They rely on empty arguments, something that the Hebraic community does relentlessly is argue and debate. And I know that these teachers, who they call themselves, they sit and they read the same scriptures that I am reading. And I believe in healthy debates, but in the year 2026, that's gone, right? Healthy debates is gone. And why do I say that? Because we are mentally unstable. We have a whole lot of mental health issues that is only getting worse as the generations, pass down mental instability, and then we're reading scriptures through a unhealthy lens. And I talk about that a lot. Your mental health affects every area of your life. That's why the Israelites went around and around in a circle instead of understanding the cycles of the Most High. And they were not able to enter into the promised land because they were mentally ill. They were out of their minds. They could not grasp what Yahweh was doing for them and through them because of their mental illness. Right? Right. The sin that's committed, and we're talking about Isaiah 59. The sin committed, it produces and reproduces iniquity. A heart that is unrepentant. Your heart is not the little heart that's inside of your body that beats. That is not what the Bible refers to when we talk about the heart. It is your mind, your thoughts, your decisions that leads to your behavior and how you act. So a unrepentant mindset. You don't want to get healed. You don't want to listen to reason. You don't want to study your Hebrew. You don't want to study. You just want to sit up and just do whatever you want to do, how you want to do it, right? Without having this relationship with Yahweh to lead and guide you. He's saying a heart that's unrepentant incubates evil. I have talked about what evil really means because, from an American standpoint, we think that evil is like Jeffrey Dahmer or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know, that's evil because it's dysfunctional. In the Hebraic sense, evil is dysfunction. Anything that is dysfunction from an American Western standpoint is evil. And evil is an abstract word, it's subjective. That's why you must study the Hebrew, because what is evil? anybody can say what's evil, right? But if we say what is dysfunctional, right, and you buy a car, and before you can get it home, it stops running. The car is dysfunctional. Everybody all across the world will agree that that car is dysfunctional. All right? So, whatever you call dysfunction in your language, that is what evil is. Something that is not working, that cannot work, dysfunctional. All right? They create an environment. These people with these dysfunctional thoughts and mindset, they create an environment so that dysfunction is meticulously calculated. Some people are so evil or so dysfunctional that they sit and meticulously calculate how they're going to be dysfunctional and how they're going to make you dysfunctional and how they're going to make the community dysfunctional and how they're going to make the government dysfunctional and how they're going to make the world dysfunctional, right? And that's why I say you have to be very careful with the bread that you're eating. A lot of teachers are giving you stale, moldy bread. We all need bread. We all need substance to survive. But I don't need your substance that's going to make me sick. All right. Then it talks about the eggs hatching. The egg hatches. What is it hatching, y'all? Dysfunction. This dysfunction is not only not working, but now the eggs have hatched. An adder is born. These are different levels of snakes. If you are a nerd, you're going to go study the difference between an adder, a viper, and a serpent, because I did. And it was, I was caught up in hours. I was like, girl, get back to the lesson. But if you are a nerd, it is a powerful lesson to see the different levels of snakes. So now it turned into a whole adder. Destruction. So the dysfunction is going to meticulously destroy everything. This is the meaning of that word viper when we just study it in a few other verses. You can study this with every verse that you want to. But what do we say in our Hebraic faith? We have to have two or three witnesses, line upon line, precept upon precept, and we're just studying what? To bana, to build, to get wisdom on how to understand the prophetic declaration that Yaakov gave today. All right, so let's talk about the behavior of vipers, and I'm gonna do this really quickly. I'm not going into a whole nerd research talk. Do that on your own time. Remember, a good teacher gives you enough information for you to go study for yourself. A good teacher does not hold your hand through every little bit of it unless you are a new believer. Then you need to sit up under a teacher, right? That's going to guide you on how to study and kind of spoon feed you until you learn. But the job of a good teacher is not to sit up here and give you every little thing. It's your job to have a relationship with the Most High, and it's your job to study. And if you don't know how to study, it's still your job to ask the Most High, teach me, send me people who will have the patience and tolerance that will help me to study. You have to ask. You don't know and you don't have because you're too scared to ask. And that is part of the the black community's problem, especially the women, scared to ask for help. Don't want anyone to know that you're a little weak in that area because you think if you are a little vulnerable or if you're a little weak that somebody gonna take advantage of you. You have to ask for guidance. Yes, you are weak in the area of biblical studies. Now, how do I get strong? Not I'm scared to ask for help, so I'm going to hide and I'm never going to ask for help and I'm never going to take a class so that I can get literate. I'm just going to remain illiterate. Mental health issues. Behavior of vipers. They decide how much venom to inject depending on the circumstances and size of the prey. Ooh. They do a bite and release strategy, okay? Because the type of venom that they release takes time to work. Dang, just meticulously thought out, right? So the proteins in their venom allows them to track down their victims, the behavior and characteristics of a viper. I hope you picking up what I'm putting down, okay? A serpent will guard his head and allow other parts of his body to be struck so that he can stay alive, like that one. A serpent will squeeze through a narrow hole and shed his old skin to get through that space. That'll preach right there. That'll preach right there, honey. That's a whole different teaching. But I hope you can hear. All right. Your judgment and discernment should grow to a level of astuteness. All right, just like that snake. Meticulously thinking and planning, but not building on wisdom, building knowledge as a viper. All right. You should be practical. You should not be so heavenly minded that you are no earthly good. You are, always praying and pulling down strongholds in the heavenlies, but your earthly life is jacked up and the two don't go together. Right? So when I hear people say, I'm pulling down strongholds and I'm very, prophetic and I have strong faith and I can see and I can hear and your earthly life is jacked up, baby. The pistons are not firing. Your elevator not going all the way up to the 10th floor because there's no way that you're doing all of that and your life is jacked up. Yes, we will have trials and tribulations, honey, but if you got all of that going on, you should be as wise as a viper. And we are not as a nation of believers. Right. All right. We have to be practical. We have to understand logical matters. You have to grow and mature to understand certain situations quickly. Astuteness. This is what a viper is because you are building, right, knowledge. You are applying that knowledge so you can walk out wisdom. Of course, you're going to have the spirit. I do not have to say that, right? Well, she talking about the wisdom and she ain't even talked about the spirit. Don't make me get my ruler out. Please don't do that. You have to have the spirit. You have to walk in spirit and in truth. The problem is a lot of us are so super spiritual, we are no earthly good, right? So we don't understand truth and how to walk that out. All right. I know I'd be fussing. If you new here, you'll understand this is just my personality. I don't mean no harm. I'm just passionate. I'm just passionate. All right. You have to understand how to have practical wisdom. Practical wisdom. You see, a viper is very practical, logical. All right. Meticulously practical, able to walk in a room and discern who you are among quickly, not taking you 5 years later. Oh, that's what that was. You know how we get. I get like that too. Like, oh, boom, it's too late. The ship has sailed. So we want to be, really really keen with our discernment. We want to be able to walk in territories and quickly be able to discern what's going on. This is just being wise as a viper. What else do I have? You can accurately assess people and situations to your advantage. So that's what I mean. Going in a room, the first 5, 10 minutes, you have accurately And a lot of us are not doing that accurately. We're going in and oh, I got his vibe, girl. I felt her vibes. You mentally ill. You ain't feel nobody's vibes but your own. But your own. You are seeing a reflection of your own mental illness, your own low self esteem, your own instabilities. This is why we have to be healed because you're going to take this lesson and go around and try to do it, but you're not healed. You're not set free. And you're hiding behind religion. You're hiding behind teachings like this. So people will take this teaching, uh-huh, and start trying to operate in it and won't operate in healing. You have to be healed so that you can see with healed eyes, so that you can hear with healed ears. You don't want to see with distortion. You don't want to see a reflection of yourself. You manic, right? You feel of anxiety, depression, OCD, perfectionist, traumatized. We have to get healed so we can be as wise as vipers. All right. So this is just a little study on that one little word inside of the prophetic declaration of Dan. So on the Hebrew calendar, we have, prophetic um, declarations and prophetic understandings for each month. And these prophetic declarations and understanding, and I don't even want to call it prophetic. Some of it is just, inside of the month that speaks to you every time this month come around. It doesn't really change. Your circumstances change, what you need may change, but these prophetic declarations that's rooted and embedded inside of each month doesn't change. So when we come back around to this month again in 2020, the end of 2026 going into 2027, it's still going to be the same prophetic word. You ain't saying nothing new. You're not, right? But it's new to you if you've never heard it, right? It is new to you if you haven't been healed. And sometimes we'll hear this in 2026, but don't get the revelation until 2027. All right. So this is the Hebraic understanding of Viper, the month of the Viper. We're leaving this month and we're going to enter into another month. But I wanted to share that as we read scripture, sometimes we read too fast. We read too fast. We don't slow down and we don't ask questions. All right. I hope this bit of information has helped you. And until the next video, shalom, everyone.